My girlfriend, 30F, and I, am 32, recently broke up due to concerns about the future. We decided it made sense logically, but are both devastated. Not sure if we made the right decision. Breakups. Hey all, very long story. Get a cuppa. I, 32M, moved to Korea to teach English in 2012. My original plan was to stay for 2 years, travel, save some money and get some extra teaching experience before returning home to train as a teacher. I met my girlfriend, 30F, a few months after arriving and after a few months started dating. We fell deeply in love and my original plan was scrapped as I continued to renew contracts as an English teacher, year after year. Fast forward to 2019 and my 30th birthday reminded me of my mortality and the fact that I didn't have a stable job or career and felt the ESL industry does not have a bright future, low barrier to entry, stagnant wages, no career progression, disruption by new technology, online learning, low birth rate in Korea, missing Christmases, birthdays and other family events over the years was also starting to take its toll. I have a twin brother with whom I am very close, and my family is tight-knit in general, and I was generally becoming a bit dissatisfied with life in Korea, friends frequently leaving, language barrier, despite my reasonably fluent Korean, cultural differences, terrible pollution for large parts of the year etc. Trying to peer into the distant future, I couldn't really envisage myself being a particularly happy retiree in Korea, despite how happy we were as a couple. So I decided to return to the UK to become qualified as a science teacher as a way to A, give me an internationally recognized qualification in a less competitive subject and B, give me an opportunity to experience living in the UK to directly compare it to my life in Korea, rather than with the romanticized version of the UK I most likely had in my head. She supported me fully and understood my reasons for wanting to do so. So I returned to the UK last September and completed the course, but still need to teach for another 2 years before I am fully qualified. We couldn't see each other during my training because of COVID, but we talked every day and exchanged messages frequently. It wasn't easy but we made it work. I felt like she was still a huge part of my daily life and me of hers, and knowing I could see her in the summer gave us both something to look forward to. We talked about our options going forward, both before I left Korea and then rather frequently while I was in the UK, which were A, I returned to Korea to teach English, B, I returned to Korea to teach science at an int. School, C, she comes to the UK, D, we break up. Option A, I still think my doubts about the feasibility of a stable career teaching English, outlined above, hold water. Also this would be going back to the same dead-end job I left before I was qualified as a teacher. X. Option B, teaching science at an int. School would be amazing, but these jobs are famous for being difficult to get. I would be asking her to wait 2 more years while I finish my training for the possibility of me getting one of these jobs. Option C, she doesn't want to live in the UK. She has a great job in Korea and it is where her family is, asking her to leave that behind would not be fair. X. Option D, we skirted around the possibility but I don't think either of us wanted to even think about it. X. This summer I returned to Korea to visit her, would have gone earlier, but COVID. In the first week after my quarantine we went to visit her parents and her father was obviously interested to know what our future plans were. He was suggesting I come back to the city where her parents live and get any old job and marry his daughter. I told him that the situation wasn't that simple and that my girlfriend and I were still discussing our options. Once we were back at her place, we realized we couldn't really keep skirting around the issue and we needed to make a decision. We both wrote down what our priorities are and what we want in life, and doing so kind of made it seem clear that the only option that worked for both of us long term was the option that neither of us wanted. Option D. Reality sunk in, we cried, and started tentative steps towards it. We spent another week together, going to favorite restaurants and the places we dated. The night before I left was the hardest of my life, and the airport was absolutely awful. I now know why they call it heartbreak. It is a pain I don't wish on anybody. I have been back in the UK for about 3 weeks now. The pain has gotten more manageable but I still love her and am struggling not having her in my life anymore. We still exchange the odd message, but we are slowly easing off. I was blessed to meet her and don't think I can find a love like that again. I enjoy living in the UK and it has been great being closer to family, But now that she isn't part of my life, everything seems a little hollow and empty. I am now doubting whether we made the right call, and maybe I should have put more faith in my ability to get an school job and to be satisfied with visits to see family when possible. I am so torn. I feel like whatever I choose I will regret it. TLDR, I returned to the UK to study for a PGCE after 8 years in Korea with my girlfriend. I couldn't see myself living until retirement in Korea and she didn't want to live in the UK. We decided to break up but are both devastated. Not sure if we made the right decision. I think you nailed it right here. I was blessed to meet her. You had a lovely time together, but as you know, love isn't always enough. You're in different places literally and figuratively and it wasn't sustainable long term. But you had a great relationship, didn't have any animosity or bitterness in the end when real life set in. That's not nothing. It's still very new, you only separated a few weeks ago. You will feel a little better every day, until you're ready to meet someone else. And you'll always have your memories with her, who maybe someday you'll be great friends with. Listen to your logical side, your concerns about staying there were well founded. In the short term it hurts, but in the long term I think you were being very smart. Hey, another Korea ESL teacher here getting ready to leave at the 30 years mark, so I fully understand why you don't see yourself returning here even if it is to an international school. Deciding a future in cross-cultural relationships is always going to be tough. But unfortunately it seems like for both of you, the sacrifices just don't add up. And that's a really tough and scary thing to admit, but it's okay for both of you to put yourselves and your goals first. Give yourself more time. I ended a 5-year relationship here in Korea when I realized that he wasn't ever going to compromise on the future, and I kind of see that attitude in your GF, since she wouldn't even consider living some time in the UK. I genuinely thought I was going to be alone for the rest of my life, that I'd made a huge mistake breaking up with him, etc. I took almost a year to even think about dating again, and COVID made it harder, only to meet someone I can say is a better love and relationship because our visions of the future match and are being built together. Just to give you a little perspective from someone who made the same decision you made. Lived and worked in Seoul for 5 years after college, Jupo, so slightly different than you. Had a corporate job but didn't see a long-term future even if the salary was fine. GF didn't want to leave Korea and I couldn't see myself working in a corporate job for the rest of my life. We broke up and I moved back to the States. With the perspective of time I think we both wound up regretting our decisions. She told me later that she wished she had been more open to moving and I should have given it more time so we could have made a decision together. Life is fluid. If you find the right person I'd try like hell to make it work. Now I'm planning to spend most of my life back in Asia in an ironic twist. You are the captain of your own ship. Only you can decide which is the worthwhile sacrifice. Either way, it sounds like there will be sacrifice. Ideally in a partnership, both people are happy and in love enough to be willing to make sacrifices. Would that willingness to give anything up be one-sided if you were to give up your family, career prospects, etc. and go back? Is she also willing to give up some comfort and ideals to make it work with you? When you both feel that way, it's worth a lot to fight for a healthy relationship with that kind of strength and resolve. Regardless of what you decide, 3 weeks out is a really intense time of grieving still. Regret, questioning your decision, and missing them wildly is par for the course at this point if the relationship was even remotely loving and happy. Perhaps processing your own thoughts and feelings with a counselor might help you search out your mind and heart and what matters most to you here. Sometimes our second thoughts hold some perspective and merit. Often they are just sadness over the loss of a meaningful relationship with someone we really care about. Loving someone doesn't mean it can work, unless both parties realize they love each other too much to not make it work. Your breakup came down a very simple, yet utterly insurmountable issue, not being able to agree on where you would settle. If you can't agree on that, there is no relationship. It's an absolutely heartbreaking fact, but it's still true. A lot of people are ignoring the most important statement in your post, that you could not view yourself being happy living in SK until you retire. I love my boyfriend, and, besides that fact, he pays for 100% of my living expenses, But I still almost left him years ago because I could not sacrifice the chance to move back to California for anything. I know that about myself, mind, body, and soul. I miss my home state so much that seeing or hearing even the smallest reference to it physically hurts me. I didn't fully commit to my boyfriend until he said that he could retire there since he is retiring very early. Earlier into our relationship, he described retiring where we currently live, so I kept him at arm's length. I am okay with visiting Korea for months at a time. We're going to visit there for 6 months in a couple years, and I'm really excited about it. I am okay with staying in our current city for a while yet. I'm not unrealistic about the situation. I also know that, if living in California ever became something that a relationship kept me from by virtue of the person I am with not be willing to live there, that I would be absolutely devastated. No matter how much I love the person, and I love this man more deeply than I have ever loved anyone, I think about him constantly even after being involved for 8 years. He is remarkable in so many ways, and I would miss him for the rest of my life. Our relationship would be rotted from the inside over my utter despair about being forever separated from my home state. If you know that you would be unhappy living in Korea, and she would be unhappy living in the UK, and there is no workable compromise, breaking up was the right thing to do. Relationships take more than love to survive.